Got it.
Hi, everyone. It's Emily Wishel, your host. I'm here with my dear friend and my Rolfer, Alex Ferm. Alex, thank you for being here. Thanks for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so
Aw,
excited.
I'm so excited. This is fun. Before I hit record, I actually got really hyped up just talking with Alex, and I had to take a deep breath and bring myself down. So I want to start and kick off our conversation with having you share what embodiment means to you.
Okay. Okay, so the quick answer,
Mhm.
embodiment means to me, oh, it means so many things to me, but the overall arching theme for me is being able to connect to my body's wisdom in any given moment and maybe see the truth of the situation past my own biases or preconditions, and just
Mm,
really being in my own skin, like in a way where I'm able to show up as like my wisest, most present self.
I love that. I especially appreciate how you named that to see the truth in a situation beyond your own biases.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it sounds like you have a longer definition too, which I would love to hear. A lot of folks do. So what is it?
I mean, gosh, it's like I know what it isn't, right? That's where I always start is like I'm
Start
really
with
not
that.
embodied
What is
right now, right? Like reactive, I'm
Yeah.
angry, I want to burn something down, like I'm pissed. You know me, I can get a little fiery, and that like moving ahead of myself and ahead of the moment, and I'm
Mm,
totally out of my body.
mhm.
And it's not the best, it's an exhausting place to be. It's so tiring for me. And um when you come back to your body and see everybody's faces around you, like it's just a sad place too. So I've spent my
Mm.
whole life trying to be more embodied so that I can be kinder to myself and kinder to others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that too much?
No, no, I think that was beautiful. And I mean, it actually made me curious of those moments of when you feel yourself leaving your body or, you're angry and you're getting ahead of yourself. What is that sensation that you experience in those, if you're able to articulate that?
Like I think it's funny with my practice with embodiment through the years, I think
Mhm.
I have more awareness even in that moment when I'm flying out of myself. So it feels like that. It feels like flying out of myself.
It seems fun.
And
Fun, but
yeah,
scary and
there's
yeah, very ungrounded.
there's an exhilaration to it for
Hmm.
sure. But it's really not conducive to like being in relationship or running a successful business or
Yeah.
or anything, like
Yeah.
making art, any of the things I want to do. It's not, yeah. So embodiment for me is like finding my home in the moment.
Yeah. Awesome. And do you mind sharing and kind of walking us through your own personal story and journey of embodiment and the layers and um,
Yeah. Um, so as a kiddo, growing up, I mean, it goes way back for me.
mhm,
And as a kiddo, childhood was not a situation where one would really want to like be in the body. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot
yeah.
of um, just a lot of stress, and I'm talking about this anger that I have. Well, that goes back to my childhood. A lot of fighting, a lot of verbal abuse, and stuff like that. So early on, I learned really well how to be out of my body, you
Mhm,
know, and
mhm,
in fantasy.
mhm.
Um,
Which is a really
but
smart strategy and kept you
yeah, it
safe.
was yeah, it was and I still do that sometimes,
Mhm,
it's part of who I am even to this day. But my mom, who had some mental illness, she taught me early on that like exercise and movement was so therapeutic for her. And so even though a lot of times she was the source of me wanting to fly out of my body, she also gave me this gift of
mm,
embodiment. And we would go for runs. And when I was 11, I started up martial arts and I got really into that. And that was all like your body's a temple, you're
Mm.
um, just, and the movements were so appropriate for the time because I had a lot of anger, honestly. So it was like this really constructive, uh, vehicle for that.
Mm.
And I did that all the way through high school. And so that and my art were like what got me through my teen years and into college. Um, but I have always turned to movement and being in my body and moving my body for all of my mental health stuff. Like that's been my main go-to. Because then in college, I dealt with a lot of anxiety and depression, and I didn't even know. I didn't even know that's what it was. But you just get to feeling strange, And
Mm.
I would go for a run, or I would go to a karate class, or I would go. I didn't discover yoga until later. I thought yoga was really boring.
Well, I love,
Um,
it's amazing that movement was such a key piece in
oh
weaving
yeah,
your life, and amazing starting martial arts at the age of 11 as a young girl. It's
I
incredible.
see that as a turning point for me. It gave me
Mhm.
something to like have in my core, and connect
Mhm.
to myself even when like it was crazy, like stuff at home was nuts.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning of it for me. And then I got out of art school. I went to art school and then I got out of that and I became a yoga teacher. And through yoga, then I really started to dig into like, how do I heal myself? Like I knew I didn't feel good. I knew I just didn't feel right, you know? And it all did circle back to embodiment and connecting to my body always. Like
Mm.
that's where the healing was every single time.
Mm.
Um, and then I became a Rolfer 14 years ago. And no,
14
sorry.
years ago?
No, sorry. It was 2014. My brain it was almost 10 years ago.
You
You're
you
like,
were already going to
wait,
correct yourself. I was just having this moment of like, shit, am I wrong on my days? Like,
no, it was
yeah.
2014. So I became,
Mhm.
and that was this whole like other layer of embodiment, and
What led you to Rolfing?
the same thing that led me to yoga and that got me into
Mhm.
martial arts. It was this push for healing and just to feel more comfortable in my own skin.
Mhm.
And I had a friend, Jackie Ames, who had gone off to become a rolfer the year before I did. And anytime she would talk about it, I would have like little bells in my head go off,
Mhm.
like I was like ding a ling a ling a ling, like that's the thing you need to go do next. And so I really listened to that, and I uprooted my whole life, and I moved to Colorado, and I met you, and I started rolfing school.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that Alex and I we graduated at different times. I graduated later, but we started our Rolfing training together. And it was the fall of 2013 in Boulder,
Hmm.
Colorado. We'd been here.
Hmm.
I mean, maybe you moved here a little before, but I had been in Boulder 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then the flood of 2013 happened, where if you're local to Boulder, you remember this. If you're not, you might not, but the whole town completely flooded. Like I was living east in town, like, so not directly off the mountains. And I'm in a townhouse, and my bedroom was flooded to like up to my knees. I remember thinking and talking to students and being like, I thought Boulder was supposed to be sunny. That's one of the reasons I was excited to live here. Like, I don't understand what's happening. It was an odd time.
Dude, yes. And I was right there. And somehow where we were living, it wasn't flooded, but it was flooded all around us.
Oh, well, you were okay. I
And
thought you were thinking you were in
I
Lafayette,
was
but you were
in
in Boulder at the
I
time.
was in North Boulder at the time for that phase
Mm.
one, and it
Mm-hmm.
flooded. And honestly, like the move, talk about embodiment. I was really out of my body when I moved here, like
Yeah.
freaked out. And I didn't really understand the severity of the flood at the time until after the fact. Like I was
Mm.
just so like, what the hell is happening? But
I
I
mean,
do remember,
yeah, I was going to say my
I
house was
remember,
flooded and I didn't understand this. I mean, I did and I didn't.
no.
It was a disembodied experience.
So is that like, I'm curious about that. I wonder if that's a bit of a coping mechanism that we all have, is to be a little like totally disembodied, right, during traumatic events.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Because our
Not a
nervous systems,
psychologist here, but
she's dropping it in. No, I mean, it is. I mean, because our nervous system's wanting to keep us safe. We're in a traumatic experience. We have to cope, we have to move, we have to live, we have to, maybe do some hard things. And I think to understand the severity of it might just knock us out.
Because just kept going to class, right? Like I think
We
maybe
did,
class
didn't
got
we?
I think maybe class was canceled like one day or something, but we just kept going.
I forgot about that. I thought, I'm like, why didn't I forgot we didn't really miss school at all, did we?
I don't
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, I don't think
Okay, I don't
so.
want us to go
And
on too much of a rabbit hole, but I'm like, wow, I'm yeah. So, how was your experience of, going into Rolfing school, being new and bolder, you completely uprooted your life, you had a young child, and I guess, yeah, the more as was it through learning, going at the Rolf Institute, which is now, what is it now? The Dr. Ida Rolf Institute, I'll be correct.
yeah, better
Um,
be. Better be.
but
Oh,
but yeah, was it partially going in the training? Was it also receiving work? In that period of time, kind of how did your own relationship with your body and your relationship even was with the word embodiment, which maybe you weren't using then, but how did that shift or evolve?
I think I was already headed in this direction, but the Rolfing training, especially some of the movement stuff that we learned, either in I think it was phase two,
Yeah.
um, really impacted me. And I soaked it up like a sponge. Just this idea that it's not about like using your body as a tool, it's not about doing with your body. It's like feeling it and feeling it in a deeper way. And what can you sense in this more like, can you feel your pants against your legs? And can you feel your feet in your shoes? And just these more subtle things. Cause I have been searching for mental, emotional, and physical healing, since I was 11, basically. And I was getting after it by like, I read Iyengar and he told me if you did headstand, you would achieve
Mm,
enlightenment or whatever. And like that wasn't fucking happening. I wasn't, they're like, these are the gifts of triangle pose. And I was like, no, it's not happening for me. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it and
mm,
hurting myself.
mm.
And I think the Rolfing training really shifted my perspective to like this, what do they call it? Interoception,
Interoception. Mhm.
interoception, that like feeling from the inside.
Mm.
And once I felt that, I was like, holy shit, I've spent all this money and all this time, and I've sweated and I've moved and you know, meditate, all this stuff. And I was like, that's great, you did that. And good job. And like, it's this very simple, profound thing where if you just stop and feel the movement of your breath, or even right
Mhm.
now while I'm talking to you, I'm like, I can feel my t-shirt on my shoulders. And it's just kind of like, there's something so calming about that for me that I so deeply needed in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And I still need
I was gonna
like
say, I think
every
we
day, even
continually
right
need.
now. Yeah.
When you were going through like the pants and the shoes, I don't have shoes and I have socks on examples, I was noticing and just doing it in my own body. And I'm like, oh yeah, that feels nice. Like that feels
Isn't
good.
it
It helps
nice?
just bring us more and more into the present, more and more into the present. And I don't think this journey of embodiment of any of it is snap your fingers, you're done. It's a constant, consistent choice. And I say that time and time again, but I think it's important to reiterate, and especially in our world today that is faster and faster, and there's all sorts of traumas and injustices constantly going on, that it really revs and revs us up and taking us out of ourselves. So the more we can, even, I think that I love that you gave the examples of the articles of clothing on your body, because it's such a tangible, tactile feedback that unless you're walking around naked, which is also lovely, but if you are walking around naked, you're probably having a nice, blissful, embodied experience in the sun or somewhere warm, is what I'm imagining. Otherwise, you likely have clothing on. And that's really helpful, right? It's a kind of part of it. Humans in our culture is we wear clothes, and anyone can access to feeling the clothes on their skin, which is such a great entry point into
Yeah.
your body.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels, for me, it just feels really secure, like, oh, I'm feeling the boundaries of my clothes,
Mm,
like
yeah.
That works for me. I like that.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. And talking about this, I'm going to add one more piece to embodiment, which is
Mhm.
coming up for me as we're speaking. Um, I guess maybe it's a side effect of embodiment, but knowing what you want in any given moment and what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And the example that popped into my mind is when I came to Rolfing into the school, I had no problem walking around in my underwear in front of everyone
Mm,
because I was totally dissociated in that moment. I wasn't there,
mm.
And when I get in my body now, I'm like, oh no, 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 no. I will be wearing clothes, like so I just think like that for me is this little moment of like I'm embodied and I know what I want right now. And I want to wear shorts and a tank top to my Rolfing session. I don't want to be in my bra and underwear.
Amazing. You can discern and feel your full yes or your hell no. And I
Uh-huh.
actually really love
Yeah.
that you brought that up because I think it's key because I personally, why I think of the more when we can feel into ourselves and be in our body, that's when we can name how we feel. That's when we
Right.
can actually name, like, other than, oh, I'm tired, I'm fine, I'm good. Like,
Right.
underneath the
Right.
surface, how do you really feel? And I believe it's through knowing how we feel that we can navigate what it is we want, what it is in that we need, then we can vocalize and name that. But I think if we don't know how we feel, we don't know what we really want. We're just like, oh, okay, we're more easily swayed and pushed all directions and then feeling burnt out or exhausted, or like we said yes
Completely.
to something that we actually like feels icky. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. I was a hell no to wearing bra and underwear, but I did it. And I did disassociate to walk in my back then. Bra and underwear. I write about it actually in my book.
I know. I think that's why I
And
thought
now
of it
I'm
because I
like, yeah, I'm
just,
in my bra and underwear. I feel great.
yeah,
So we're
yeah,
different, but there's no
yeah.
right or
I
wrong. Yeah.
I just read that in your book. I think that's what made me think of it. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Hmm.
So I know, if you don't mind kind of going into this, you had alluded kind of in our text and messagings, kind of this is body image specifically as a current um, topic for you personally. Do
Yeah.
you mind sharing
Very
just kind of
much.
what are you noticing, thoughts or feelings, kind of what's happening for you?
Well, it's interesting. It's coming at me from the outside in. So I'm noticing when I talk to my friends, many of my friends are having body image issues right now. They all feel
Mm,
like they need to lose 20 pounds or um, just a lot of conversations about that with my women friends, like weight. It's
mm,
almost and then I went to go visit my parents and I watched like, my dad doesn't eat much, like and it triggered me, and I noticed that, I was like, "Wow, he's not eating anything." And, so I've been sitting with myself because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, well, wait, where do I land on this?" And I'm noticing, and you say this in your book, like, a good percentage of my thoughts and it's like background sound, I'm not always aware of it, but it's like the background buzz is all about losing 15 pounds, you know?
mm, mhm,
And when I think about myself, let's say in Rolfing school, I was 20 pounds lighter then. I thought I needed to lose 15 pounds back then too. And I'm
mm,
like,
interesting.
what's happening here? And I've just been sitting with like, what of that is actually mine?
Mm,
Like that, a lot of it feels very foreign. Like you talk about it in your book. I've read the first two chapters, but like the societal stuff is heavy duty toxic. And I don't think anybody is immune to it. And it made me kind of giggle when you wrote me your email, like you're so confident in your body, you might not have any body issues. And I was like, oh, I think I do. I just, I just am not always conscious of it. But when I tune in and
mm,
I become more embodied, I'm like, oh, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And too much energy goes to it, you
mhm.
know?
So with
So
those currently, one, I just also just want to express my gratitude and appreciation that you're openly, vulnerably sharing something that you're currently noticing and dealing with. That's a really
yeah.
beautiful gift you're giving to anyone who's listening. Um, so what have you been playing with? What have you found supporting you as
Mhm.
you when you tune in and are noticing those thoughts? What's helping you shift it? What's helping you come back instead of from that outside in to the inside out? Or um
Mhm. So a couple of things. Of course, eating healthy feels better, right?
Mhm.
Like, so making those choices as much as I can to eat in a way that I know will make me feel good.
Mhm.
My whole thing, and again, since I was 11, is just feeling better mentally, emotionally, physically, and like food absolutely contributes to that, and I know it. So that's number one. And it does actually help these sort of negative thoughts, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then I focus too on everything my body can do, you know? Like I could go outside right now and run 3 miles, and that's amazing. Like,
Good. That's
right?
amazing.
I know. And I just
Yeah.
went right, I did weight training in the middle of the day. Like I focus on the
Oh,
strength of my body, you know?
yeah.
Like I love my body. I really do. Like the truth of me is, and has always been, that I love my body.
Mhm.
And it's so capable and it can do so many different things, and it is a vehicle like for my own healing and helping others, and it's just amazing. So I really try to shift my focus when I notice those thoughts.
Mhm.
And then the final thing is I have this friend, and she's a mother of three,
Mhm.
and the other day I asked her to go shopping with me, and it was really therapeutic because it was so fun, because you know how
Mm.
those mirrors are, you know,
Mhm.
they're sort
Mhm.
of
In the
horrifying.
fitting rooms,
They're
it's
horrifying.
always the worst lighting. The lighting
It's
sucks. The
it's like,
mirrors suck. Like, it's not, they're not truth telling mirrors. They're like, I'm gonna make you look worse so you want to buy more stuff or buy something else, that
I
you
don't
isn't
know
gonna help you.
I don't know what the tactic is there, but it
I don't,
does
yeah, I
seem
don't actually know if what
intentional.
I said is
It
true, but
seems
yeah.
no, it seems intentional because it's like the worst mirrors ever. And so I brought my friend with me, and she was next door in the next door dressing
Mm.
room. And she's like, I just want to get something that fully embraces my mom pooch. And I was like, God, that's awesome. You know,
Yes.
like I don't, she's my only female friend that would say something like that. Everyone else is trying to lose 20 pounds, you know? And
Mm.
this friend, she's like, what are they trying to do? Like, you know, like what is the end game here? Like, are we trying to be happy and live in our bodies, or are we trying to like look good in a bikini, and why? Like, you know, like what? So we just
Yeah.
had so much fun shopping, and I got a ton of clothes that I was happy with, and it felt so therapeutic, you know,
Mm.
just to go and
Mhm.
have fun with the shopping
Mhm.
experience instead of going and, you know, having a dreary old time.
Yeah, yeah. I think I love what you said. It's kind of different than sometimes what I may have expected you to say or what folks may say, but like food, movement, and then shopping. And I want to go a little bit into each. And I think even just how you name food, when you eat well, or what foods for you help you feel good. And
Yeah.
what I want to highlight and everything that you languaged is it's coming from how you want to feel mentally, emotionally, and physically. It's not coming
Yeah.
from because I want to look a certain way, because I want to lose these 15 pounds, because, or, and ultimately, I think either those because thoughts, the operating umbrella is because something's wrong with me, is where
Right.
the motivation would come from, which is a very different energy and relationship with food versus I want to eat this food because I want to enjoy it because it helps me, it makes me feel good. It helps me feel vital. Um,
Right.
yeah.
That's where I consciously try to stay. And of course, I go to the other place too that I think we all
Yeah.
go to, where, you know, that other place where you make choices around food, maybe from the more dysfunctional place. And,
Mhm.
um, but right now I'm on a kick, maybe because this was coming up, and it's just been in the air with the women around me, the
Mm.
body image stuff. And I would say for like the past 6 weeks, it's really been up for me. So this was well timed, Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Our timing
it's
is
cool.
divine.
We
Um,
are.
just gonna celebrate ourselves on this podcast.
Just we're just
That's
pretty
what we're really
awesome.
good at doing. You're always, whenever I'm with you, I'm always like, you're my best cheerleader. But I actually really like, I don't know if it was you or your friend in that story that you shared of, I think it was your friend, but how you said that she said of like, okay, they want to lose 20 pounds, but why? Like, is the goal to be happy or is it to look a certain way? Is it to look a certain way? I like just that kind of, but why?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing innately wrong with, of course, there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight. There's nothing wrong with wanting to
Right. No.
look a certain way. And it's the but why? What is the motivation behind that desire, that goal? And I think that's a slippery slope. And it's not like, I think it's like when you have a goal or working towards something, it's great to continually looking at that motivating factor. And can it come from, I love how you started us off with that inside out. Can it come from the inside? Because you want to help elicit a feeling, because there's something that, when you do this action, when you feel this way in your body, it helps elicit this feeling of happiness, of joy, and not coming from outside in of, because then people will like me better. I'll get more approval. I'll be able to put that Instagram photo of me on the bikini and it'll get so much more likes
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah,
and easier
totally.
said than done, but it's important to name and
Completely.
language. And I love how we're all human. And it's like, for me, I was raised in like diet culture. My mom and I used to buy everything diet-free, sugar-free, fat-free. Now I'm like, it was some shitty foods that were not healthful that we were buying. And if I notice some of those thoughts coming up, we can take a breath, take a moment. It doesn't mean you're wrong or you don't love your body. It just means, what is this? Why is that present?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, completely. Yeah. Just have so much. I just feel like my heart aching for all of my female friends, like all of
Mm,
them across including me too,
yeah.
that we have
Yeah.
to hold this yucky programming, in our bodies. And, you just never know what's going to happen too in your life day to day. And if that's what we're going to focus on, it's like, are we missing the beauty of our own lives? So I really am motivated to, do as much healing around that as I can. And it's a
Mhm.
sticky one. It's a
It's
sticky one.
sticky, but I think we
Mhm.
can unwind it so we're not
Yeah.
so trapped behind it. So
Mhm.
it's not taking so much of our energy.
Completely. And you can put it toward other things, like you said.
Like
I
Rolfing, like the fascia.
Segue.
That's
We're doing good. We're doing good on time, I think.
yes, we are. We're doing just fine, but I want to talk about Rolfing structural integration. And
Okay.
I think I just want to start. What is Rolfing to you? It's like, maybe I don't want you to put you on the spot, put you on a big question, but I actually feels like an important segue even in this conversation to me of like body image and loving our body and learning how to be more from the inside out. And
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I know it was a huge
Completely.
catalyst in my relationship with my body. It's been
Me
completely
too.
significant, continues to be, whether I'm receiving or giving. Giving is such a grounding experience. Yeah.
It is. It is. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I feel like it's all the same stuff we've been saying, actually. Like right now, I'm imagining working with somebody and you contact their tissue and you feel the response, and it's like meeting and listening and holding space for whatever comes up with that interaction,
Mhm.
And my approach, I try to approach it with just a ton of curiosity and love, and just not the outside in, not the trying to
Mhm.
fix it. It's more like all of this healing work for me is like I'm having coffee with a friend. Like I'm having coffee with you and
Mhm.
you're telling me all your biz and I'm listening. And that for me is so unwinding and healing, whether you're talking about an emotional thing or a stuck shoulder or you name it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
for me, that's where the healing is, whether I'm working with someone else or I'm working with myself.
Mhm. It's a
Yeah,
nice analogy that you're having coffee with a friend. Yeah.
that works for me. That, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I'm not giving my friend a bunch of advice, like I'm just
Right.
listening.
Now, here,
because
Alex,
because you
here's
know what
what
you
you
should
need to
do.
do. Did
I
you
hate
know?
I hate that. And all the people close to me know I hate it. I hate it.
Ay, girl. I'm like, can you just ask permission if I'm looking for advice or if I just need someone to listen?
Because I
But
will ask for advice. Sometimes you do ask
Mhm.
for advice, and that's a different thing. But I just have found so much immense healing myself and with my clients that are like ready for that. Just this listening,
You're a
talking
beautiful
about
listener. I've been grateful to get to receive from you. I don't know how long now. Um,
14
and
years, Emily.
yeah, I guess we were together before we were together in the physical aspect. But I like that you keep coming back to that listening. Because listening, it requires us to slow down and to
Mhm.
feel into what is presently being related, whether we are in an interpersonal with another relationship connection, or I love how you even said it when you with yourself, when you're working on some of your own inner healing, looking at it the same as like having coffee with a friend. I think helps bring some of the charge out, like a little less charge, and maybe make it a little easier to be with some of these things that are
Yeah.
uncomfortable, to
Yeah.
be able to increase our capacity to slow down and listen.
Yeah. And when I'm really in the depths of darkness, where I definitely go at times, and I'm being really hard on myself,
Yeah.
I imagine what I would do if I was my friend, you know? And I just
Mm.
try to like
Mhm.
flip it in my mind. And it works, you know. It might
Mm.
not work right that second. I might need to lie down and take a nap, but it works.
Yeah. And maybe you would tell your friend to take a nap or go cuddle your
Well,
friend.
yeah. Yeah, completely. Just lie down. Just go ahead and lie down for a minute. You'll be fine, you know?
So, Alex, when you were sharing to you what Rolfing is to you, it was really, it felt really beautiful, and I felt like personally touched. And being that I'm a Rolfer and have received Rolfing, I have a reference for that. So
Yeah.
I am curious if it's possible for you, in an audio, over a podcast, but for someone who hasn't ever received Rolfing or isn't familiar with it, but is curious about this idea of wanting to lean into coming more from the inside out, or wanting to lean into, if they're having some uncomfortable emotions, or they're noticing, hey, Alex, I relate to your friends, I want to lose those 20 pounds. And all of this sounds great, ladies. And like,
Yeah.
how can I
Yeah.
more readily choose to lean in and like, as though I'm having coffee with a friend?
Oh, I know. That's such a great question because it sounds super simple.
Mhm.
And then in a way, it's not, right? Because every person's so different and coming from so many different backgrounds. I guess,
Yeah, just any thoughts or suggestions on that? I don't want to put you two on the spot. I realize it's a big question. I'm asking a lot.
I think it's a
Um,
really good question. And I like to think about it. And, the way that I approach it with clients or if I'm working with yoga students is I kind of gauge where to meet them based on what they're saying and their words and like how their bodies look. And, a lot of people come to Rolfing expecting that really heavy handed touch.
Mhm.
And sometimes they need that, right? To feel grounded and to feel like something's happening, like
Mhm.
they need something's working if they really feel it. And so I do work that way too, you know.
Mhm.
Um but then we might have a moment after I've given them all those elbows, they might we might have a moment where I just hold maybe at the knee, the top and the bottom, and I just say, feel the space between my hands. After they've settled, after their nervous system
Yeah.
is settled enough to even be able to do that, right? Because it
Mhm.
is sort of advanced what we're talking about in a way. It is a more
Mhm.
subtle,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
anyone can feel it, and people are amazed. Like, I had a woman say to me, she's 60 years old, and she said, "I've never felt anything like this in my whole life, Alex. I didn't think I was gonna have any more firsts," you
Oh,
know?
I love that.
And it was so cool. I was like, "Awesome,"
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to even go for that, but, like, it was just so neat to work with her. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I guess that's my approach to working with clients. I try to gauge my end goal is this kind of inside out thing. But of course, most people are operating in the outside in. So I gear toward that too, and then try to throw in some of these inside out moments.
Mhm.
Does that
I
make
think
any
it
sense?
No, it does. And I think to relate it to somebody who's maybe not walking into a Rolfing session or isn't gonna, have the ability to receive that, and but still is wanting to play with this outside in, inside out idea and theme. When you were speaking of, like, sometimes you might meet somebody with more heavy hands so they can feel something, so they can ground. What came to me and registered is, yeah, sometimes you just need to feel like the heat of your muscles, right? Maybe it just needs to be like some strength routine or movement, or Could be cardio, but like what comes is actually strength, like doing some heavy set of it's a squat or something, right? That gets the
Mhm.
blood moving
Mhm.
that can actually then help facilitate that person's nervous system and being able to settle and soften a little bit more to then maybe sit in a little meditation or with a little breath work to be in a more embodied aware state, to
Completely.
listen a little, to even listen a little deeper. It's like we're revving up sometimes to help
Mhm.
us be able to more readily listen. I think sometimes that
Completely.
approach is needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And gosh, this is also popping up. You saying that made me think about like, how with Rolfing we might test the movement. Like maybe I give your shoulders a little squish, right? To see
Mhm,
what's
mhm.
moving, where it's stuck,
Give the rib cage a
and
little gush.
give it a little gush,
Always
give
I'm
the
like,
hips
"Ooh,
a
this side's
little
gushy or this side's not." I'm like,
a little
maybe
jiggle, a
maybe
little
I need
jiggle, a
another
little
word other
squish.
than gush. But no, yeah.
Or jiggle. Um, but you do that, and then you do your little intervention, whether it's a meditation breathing or a forearm into the whatever it is, and then you test
Mm,
it again, and you feel the difference. Now, sometimes the client can really feel the difference too.
mm,
And so, like, I really use that a lot.
mm,
And I have been getting people up in between sides so they can feel like, oh my gosh, that feels so different. I think
yeah.
that stuff is really important. And I really like to do just a teeny bit of work and then have them feel it because they're like, it doesn't really feel like you did anything, but I feel so different. And I think that that's so impactful to have that
Mhm.
moment that we don't have to, like, whether you're in yoga and you think you got to do your 90-minute practice every single
Yeah,
day to reach whatever you're trying to reach. Like, sitting down in a chair and taking 10 deep breaths can be so healing.
completely. It can totally that can shift your day.
It always
Yeah.
being hard, I sometimes think it always being hard is part of like this marketing pyramid scheme, that
Mm.
everybody's trying to get us with.
Yeah, well, and it's I think too when it increases the barrier to entry. It just makes the resistance to even do the thing, or maybe we have 1,000 tools in our head that we know might support us, but it can be hard to do them because it's like, oh, I have to go sit in my room alone for 30 minutes, or I'll do the thing. It's like, no, sometimes it could just be a simple, yeah, like laying down on the floor for 3 minutes and just connecting with your breath. I'm often amazed at 3 minutes how that shifts my state, how I'm feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. Hmm.
So what
Good
would
question.
you, Alex, thank you for breaking that down. That was a hard question, but I appreciate
I
your,
hope, yeah,
kind of
I
going there
know.
and
Yeah.
sharing.
Of course, I did read your questions beforehand, but I didn't really
I didn't
prepare,
give you that question before. I just made it up.
you
was I was curious from what you said. I was like, oh, that sounds really nice. How could that, is it possible to elicit a similar experience of that without going into a Rolfer's office?
Right.
What
Yes.
would be your like main tip or suggestion, insight that you would give to someone who's wanting to live a more radically embodied life?
Hmm. Hmm. Oh man, that's a big question. Okay,
Girl,
let's keep it simple.
kiss. Keep it simple, silly.
I have so many that my mind is a swarm with them, like just simple ideas. So, like
Yeah.
feeling your feet in your shoes, I think for me is the easiest one, whether you're
Mm.
sitting or standing. And, um, to choose like a neutral moment, like when you're doing your dishes,
Yes,
can
I
you
love that.
can you
Yeah.
can you do your dishes and can you feel your feet in your shoes while you do
Mm.
your dishes? You know? And then you could get real nerdy and like, can you do your dishes and can you feel your shoulders while you're, because I think dishes are one of those things we're just trying to get through.
Mhm.
It's like an annoying task that nobody really wants to do. Um, and you can just be like lost in your own mind and when you're doing the dishes, but it's actually such a great time to tune in and see like what are my actual natural habits of in my body that I do, You can learn so much.
It's a great example. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And starting with your feet, you can feel into them anytime and feeling your
Anytime.
feet in the shoes. Awesome.
Hmm. Yeah.
Alex, you do a lot of things. You are an
you know,
artist, you're a Rolfer,
yeah.
you're a yoga therapist. Alex has amazing, phenomenal art. Where can folks find more about you? Where can they find your art? Where can they look at it?
Yeah. So for um, my artwork is on my website, which is flamingomedusa.com. And Flamingo Medusa is a little artistic alter ego that I created actually 14 years ago. It really,
Oh,
that
that's where
was
the
14.
14 years ago
That's where the
came from.
14. And it's Medusa, but instead of snakes, she's got flamingos coming out of her head because I just think
Love
it's so funny.
her.
I think I'm so clever and funny. Um, and so she's on my website, but I also do landscapes and watercolors and all kinds of stuff. I've been painting since I was 9.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that's
Awesome.
where you
And
can
then
find me. Also on Facebook.
timetoalign.com is your other website.
That's Yeah, that's my Rolfing. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. And I'll have those in the show notes. So Flamingo Medusa. Check out Alex's work. It's very clever. It's very fun. And you have some beautiful watercolors.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
yeah, and screen print tees and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I have
Alex,
clothing.
thank you. Oh yeah,
Thank
go.
you. Well, I was going to say yesterday, Henry was at the rock climbing gym and he saw somebody wearing a Flamingo Medusa t-shirt
Oh
and it
my
just made
God.
my day.
I bet,
So
and what a sweet moment for him to be at the rock climbing and then see his mom's shirt on something. That's
yeah,
really cool.
I know.
That's
I'm
really
like
cool.
famous. So
You are famous. Yeah, you are, girl. I'm proud.
not this podcast and my t-shirt. So thanks so much, Emily.
You are so welcome. No, thank you, Alex. I appreciate you. I adore you. You're a delight. It was like a gift to get to have you on here. So thanks for being on the podcast. And everyone go check out Alex's work at Flamingo Medusa. And hopefully, I'm sure you had a lot that spoke to people. And so I hope that you kind of take to heart and just keep in the back of your mind some of Alex's suggestions and perspectives. Next time you're doing your dishes, just feeling into various parts of your body and noticing what does that elicit, noticing what is that shift, if anything at all, and just staying in that state of curiosity. All right. Thanks again, Alex. Thanks everyone for
Thanks,
tuning in
Emily.
and take care.
Okay, thanks.